Often on this channel, we will regularly feature cars that you've heard of, cars and brands you haven't heard of, and very occasionally we'll cover the brands you've heard of, but they're cars that you haven't, like this, the Subaru Crosstrek. And in this video, we're going to work out what it is, what it goes up against, who it's for, and is it any good? While the name Crosstrek might be unfamiliar to UK buyers, it isn't actually new. But to understand that, we need to go back a few years and clarify some bits, because this car's history is quite complicated. Roll VT.
The story of the car goes back to 1994, with the introduction of the Outback Sport. Whereas the Outback was a jacked up, more rugged version of the Legacy, the Outback Sport was a trim level aimed at doing the same thing to the smaller Impreza wagon. It started life in 1995 on the original Mark I, with some contrasting colours on the front and rear bumpers, mud flaps and some roof bars, and was built exclusively for the North American market. It was fundamentally the same as the Impreza that it was based on, and could be had with either a 1.8 litre flat 4 engine and a manual gearbox, or a 2.2 litre engine with an automatic. In 2001, for the second generation, the car was introduced to the Australian market as the Impreza RV, and this had a variant on the Bug-Eye, Blob-Eye and Hawkeye models. The third generation Impreza, introduced in 2007, also saw an Outback Sport variant, but this version of the Impreza became more grown up. Gone was the saloon and wagon shapes, and in its place a hatchback design aimed at taking the fight to the VW Golf and Ford Focus. However, while the US had the Outback Sport, Europe and Australia for 2010 got the Impreza XV, and this gave us our first glance at where the model was heading. However, in 2011 we got our first look of the XV sans Impreza. Described by Subaru at the time as a new generation of crossover vehicle blending exceptional SUV practicality with a fashionable form. While the bright green paintwork didn't make it to the final product, the XV was put into production and launched in the UK in 2012. Power came from either a 1.6 or 2 litre petrol flat 4 engine or a 2 litre flat 4 diesel. In America, this model was known as the XV Crosstrek. For 2017, the second generation XV was built on Subaru's global platform, once again offering a more rugged alternative to the Impreza. However, in America, the XV name was dropped and the model was simply referred to as Crosstrek. For 2019, we also saw the introduction of the first hybrid model, named BOXER. A facelifted model was introduced in 2020 before an all-new model was introduced for 2022. For the new model, Subaru decided to drop the XV name globally, and that's how we've now come to the Crosstrek name for the UK.
So now that we've untangled that mess, we can now start to focus on where this car fits into the market. Don't think of this as a traditional SUV like Nissan Qashqais and Kia Sportages of this world. That's where the Forester comes in. I did get a chance to see that at the Caravan, Camping and Motorhome show at the MEC earlier this year, and you can see my first look at that video up here. No, think of this as more of a jacked-up hatchback. In the case of this car, it's based on the Impreza. So you'd be thinking cars like Formentor, Kia Xceed, Ford Focus in active trim, and, albeit discontinued, the Volvo V40 Cross Country. And while that car has been off sale for a number of years, I do still think it's relevant. So what do you get? Well, when you look at it from the front, it's actually quite imposing. You've got this really chunky, frameless front grille, and then you've got this black plastic cladding that goes down the front, all the way down the side, and round the back as well. I particularly like these air vents over the front wheels. Now, these are actually functional and designed to prevent lift over the front axle to improve stability. You then also get 18-inch diamond cut alloy wheels, big chunky all-weather tyres, and a really sturdy set of roof bars to match. Now, I appreciate looks can be subjective, but if you were to pick this against any of its rivals on looks alone to go green laning, naturally, you'd be picking this one. And you'd be right to, because this being a Subaru, as standard, you get symmetrical all-wheel drive. Something you don't get at all on the Kia. If you want all-wheel drive on the CUPRA Formentor, you have to go for the top-of-the-range 333 horsepower variant. And while you could get all-wheel drive on the Volvo, you could only get it on the top-of-the-range T5 engine, and they were rare when they were new. I had a look on Auto Trader the other day, and there were only 3 for sale. To further support the Crosstrek's off-roading capabilities, you get 220mm of ground clearance, which is by far more than its competitors, and even outdoes some Land Rover and Range Rover models. The Touring model also benefits from hill descent control, and the graphics even show you what angle the car is positioned at. Inside, it's a bit of a mixed bag. When you step inside, your first impressions are that this interior feels like something you'd find from other cars about 10 years ago, what with its physical dials and switchgear. But truth be told, I wouldn't say all interiors have got better in that time. Materials are really good in some places, like with the center console and the dashboard, really solid, and then they are absolutely awful in other areas, like the door. I mean, look how much flex there is in that door card. That is really bad. But when you do rest your arm on it, it is quite comfortable. To make things feel a little bit more plush though, this touring model does have a proper opening sunroof and a full leather interior. However, the main feature here is this Starlink system. It's 11.6 inches and mostly fine. You get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and pairing up my phone was an absolute doddle. The response okay, not smartphone fast, but not laggy or anything like that. The rest of the system's okay, but it does give off a whiff of aftermarket about it. Bit like those Alpine or Pioneer systems you would have got in the early 2000s. It's like Subaru had all of this screen real estate and didn't really know what to do with it. It's like they've taken the software that was on their smaller screens and just dumped it on here. One of the ways that they've actually integrated something into the screen is by taking away all the buttons and dials for the climate settings and put them permanently at the bottom of the screen here. Personally, I think I'd rather give up some screen space to have proper physical buttons there. But then the buttons on the side feel so spaced out, you could probably stack everything in the space provided anyway. In terms of plugs and chargers, plenty of choice with both USB-C and USB-A. Love to see it. You even get an aux port as well. Do people still use those? You also get a 12-volt socket and this random blanked off button on the dashboard here. I can only assume it relates to models outside of the UK. But if you do know, why don't you let me know down in the comments? As well as loads of plugs in the front, you also get a USB-A and USB-C port in the rear too. Speaking of the back, I have got loads of legroom considering I'm 6 foot tall. However, headroom is somewhat limited, especially with this touring model with a sunroof. It's also really dark in here because you've got these tiny little windows, really thick C-pillars. Kids will be fine though.
In the boot, you only get 350 litres of space. It's a good shape and offers a flat floor, but because of the all-wheel drive and hybrid system, it does suffer compared to its rivals. The Kia offers 426 litres and the CUPRA Formentor offers 450. However, this is with their standard two-wheel drive petrol models. Factor in their hybrids and the Xceed drops to 296 and the Formentor to 345. So it makes the Subaru somewhat par for the course here. It's also worth noting there is no option of a powered tailgate.
Powertrain options for this car are limited to just one. A 2-litre naturally aspirated flat-4 BOXER engine paired with a mild hybrid electric motor, which combined give 136 horsepower and 182 Nm of torque. This is then paired to an 8-speed CVT automatic, which means a 0 to 62 sprint of 10.8 seconds. It's a little bit disappointing when you compare it to its rivals. Take the Kia, for example. That 1.5 litre engine only produces 2 extra horsepower, but more importantly produces 70 Newton meters more torque. The CUPRA Formentor, that starts at 150 horsepower for its 1.5 litre mild hybrid, and they can go all the way up to 333 horsepower from its 2 litre turbo. They even offer both mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid options on that car. What makes it even worse is there's a 2.5 litre 182 horsepower version of this car in existence. And you could buy that in the US, but it isn't available in the UK, which is a shame because I think it would have made the car more competitive over here. Fuel economy isn't that much better either. The official figure is 36.8 miles to the gallon, whereas if you compare it to the Kia or the CUPRA, you could expect well over 40. Myself, I've been averaging about 33.5. In terms of what it's like to drive, the engine performance is very flat. It doesn't matter if you're pulling away or if you're doing like from 50 to 70, it just doesn't really have any shove to it. And with the CVT gearbox, you really have to rev it out to get any kind of speed. But once it is up to speed, then it sort of hushes down and becomes very smooth and quite relaxing. If you're coming from turbo engines with double clutch gearboxes, it will feel very different and will take a little bit of getting used to. But after a bit of time, you will then adapt and you'll appreciate how smooth it is. In terms of ride, that is also very smooth. In fact, if you had asked me what is the most comfortable car I'd ever driven, I would have told you it was a Volvo XC70 cross-country from 2006. That car had really soft seats, really soft suspension, big chunky tyres, and I was picking that up as a part exchange once from Wiltshire, and I delivered it back to our dealership in Leatherhead when I worked for a Volvo dealer many moons ago. And it took me about 3 hours to do the trip because it was stop-start traffic, it was pouring with rain, really late in the day, so I was a little bit tired. But I tell you what, I got out of that and I felt right as rain. No aches, no stresses, felt really good having driven that car. And I would even go as far as to say that its successors never quite got as close as that car did for comfort. This, however, I do think runs it very close. And this doesn't have 96,000 miles on the clock. This has about 1,000 and a warranty. And there's not a huge amount of body lean. It grips well, courtesy of the all-wheel drive system. Steering is direct, it doesn't give a huge amount of feedback, but it gives enough. Like Volvo, however, Subaru pack a lot of safety equipment into their cars. They call it Eyesight 4.0. And the main feature is basically these 2 cameras on the windscreen, and they're constantly monitoring for traffic and pedestrians and cyclists, and if necessary will intervene by either alerting me as the driver or will apply the brakes to slow the car down. Much like a lot of safety systems these days though, the car will bing and bong at you with various warnings. And what was most infuriating was the speed camera alert, because it was just so loud. And I couldn't actually work out what it was because it didn't actually give me any kind of alert on the dash or on the infotainment, case in point, to tell me what it was that it was causing that alert. We only worked out that it was doing speed cameras because Waze was also chiming in to tell me of a speed camera just beforehand. There's also another one that I find really annoying. It's when it's telling me that I need to keep my eyes on the road, but I'm already looking at the road and I have to take my eyes off the road to see the message to tell me to do exactly that. It's all very frustrating, and it's not exactly easy to turn it all off. The speed cameras are buried in the navigation, and all the other systems are set in a safety button in the settings. What would be really good is if they took a leaf out of Renault's book and had all of the safety systems all in one place that I could just tailor as I want, and then have a physical button that I could press to turn them all off or keep some of them on as I deem fit.
At the time of recording, there are just 2 trim levels, the entry-level Limited and top spec Touring. As standard, the Limited model features automatic rain sensing windscreen wipers, rear privacy glass, rear spoiler, leather wrapped 3-spoke steering wheel, fabric seat trim, heated front seats, electronic parking brake, dual zone automatic climate control, an 11.6-inch multimedia touchscreen system, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, 6-speaker audio with DAB and Bluetooth connectivity, front row USB-A and USB-C ports with an aux-in jack, Subaru SI drive, X mode with hill descent control, and a rear view camera. There's also a lot of safety kit as standard courtesy of iSight 4.0. This includes adaptive cruise control, pre-collision braking, front and side alert assist, autonomous emergency steering, lane departure prevention, lane centre function, emergency lane keep assist, traffic sign recognition, intelligence and a manual speed limiter. There's also Subaru's rear vehicle detection, and this includes blind spot monitoring, lane change assist, rear cross traffic alert and reverse automatic braking. You then have the top spec touring model. This adds 18-inch diamond turned alloy wheels, high beam assist, power sliding and tilt adjustable sunroof, synthetic leather seat trim, 10-way power adjustable driver's seat with lumbar support, illuminated vanity mirrors, satellite navigation, second row USB-A and USB-C ports, and manual mode paddle shifters. In terms of options, these are very much limited to accessories designed to protect the vehicle. These include black cargo step panel, cargo tray, splash guard set, side sill plates, luggage divider and side decoration foil. You then get the option of 6 exterior colours.
So what are my final thoughts on the Subaru Crosstrek? Well, if you're the kind of person who wears Nike trainers and you buy your clothes from Next, then I would say that this isn't the car for you. There are other cars like the Kia, like the CUPRA, and other SUVs that are maybe a little bit more practical that are going to suit you better and will probably come in at a much lower price point. However, if you are the kind of person who wears barber jackets and hunter wellies, well then, this car makes a lot of sense. In a segment that is often described as bland, this offers a very niche product which will suit the Subaru demographic really well. And I think it will also appeal to ex-Volvo owners who may have been disillusioned with the way that brand is going in its pursuit of Mercedes Audi. I'd like to thank Subaru UK for the loan of this vehicle, and I'd like to thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a like. And while you're down there, be sure to comment down below what you think of the Crosstrek. Is it something you've considered previously, or is it something you're going to consider? And if you've owned one, what's it like? Do let us know. And while you're there, be sure to click subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified whenever I load up new content. This is the second of 3 SUVs that I'm going to be reviewing on the channel, and the next one will be coming very, very soon, so you want to be sure to be subscribed for that. Otherwise, till next time, I'm Max, this is the Subaru Crosstrek, you've been watching Max Talks, and I'll see you on the next one.